John Larson back again with another edition of AREI 101. Today's a special day. We have a special guest with us today. Today is all about property management. So I brought in the master of property management, Mr. Scotty Mitchell. He's the COO of American Real PM. That is our in-house management solution. Obviously, I'm only going to hire the best, so we're going to hear a lot of great stuff from Scotty today. We're going to cover, number one, what's Scotty's background? Why did we choose him to run our management company and basically, handle my investments like they were his own? That's the kind of guy I was looking for. So let's find out a little bit more about Scotty today. We're going to talk about what you need to look for in a professional property management team. How to actually vet out the right management company so you know that your investment is with the right team to make sure that this thing is going to perform for you at its highest and best, because management is a very, very crucial part of this whole process. We're gonna also give you some more insight on exactly what a property management company even does. I don't think that everybody really knows how much work goes into managing these properties, and especially a high volume of homes. So we're gonna have Scotty touch base on that as well today. So this is gonna be a very, very great class. A lot of information to be handed out today. So let's get to it. Okay, class, I'd like to welcome Scotty Mitchell, COO of American Real PM. Scotty, thanks for being in the class today. Special guest here. So number one, our topic today obviously is Property Management 101. This is a very, very important part of the whole process here, right? AREI or any of these other providers out in America, they can produce the greatest house, tell them they did the best rehab, blah, blah, blah. But if they don't have the best management company watching their investment, especially these out-of-town investors, it's going to fail, okay? So the whole class today, I want to talk about, number one, what do you need to look for when you're calling potential management companies or looking for the right team to work with? Because this is really important. You got a lot of money tied up in this investment. You want to make sure it's performing. How do these people know they're working with the right property manager?
Absolutely, and that's an incredibly good question. We've got some stuff on the board here of things that you should be looking for when you're talking to a property manager for the first time. The first one that I see on here is transparency. What you want to look for there is how open they are to giving information. I've heard many clients in the past talk about structures within property management where they're getting invoice bills or their statement is different and they can't get an answer as to what the bill actually was for or what actually was on the statement. So you want to make sure that there's a lot of transparency coming through from the property management company to the investor. The next thing is communication. This is probably the biggest complaint that I see towards other property managers is that they can't get the property manager to respond to them. You want to make sure that they have not only a good level of communication, but they have a policy in regards to communication. Our policy being that we're going to respond back to you within 24 hours, regardless of what type of communication you send to us. The next one, fee structure. And whether it's fair to the investor. We may touch on that a little bit later, but you definitely want to know what their fee structure is and where the fees are coming from. Obviously, there need to be fees. A property management company does have to make money, but you want to know where the fees are coming from.
Right. I want to elaborate on that too. So we want to make sure the fees are fair, right? But we also want to make sure, a lot of property management companies out there, what I've seen in my career, they will basically lowball fees to try and win doors, right? Is that necessarily the best way to go when it comes to property management? Just the cheapest option?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay.
What I call them is discount brokers or discount managers, and there's a reason that they're discounted. We have a discount on our fee structure for AREI clients because we are partnered with them. But it's a very structured discount, and it has to do with a relationship rather than just we want to pull in the business. If you have to lower your fees to pull in a business, that means that there's something fundamentally not quite right.
Makes sense.
Is my opinion on it. The next thing on the list, PM to property ratio. That is going to vary depending on company structure, but you want to know what it is and why it's there. Our ideal is between 200 and 250 homes per property manager. And that's because we're leaving certain things on the table for the property manager that we feel they should be responsible for, so that they know everything about the asset and can correctly manage it. Now, that number could go up for a company that, for instance, outsources a whole bunch of their items and doesn't have the property manager doing it. That's not the way that we do it, but you want to know what that ratio is and why it is there. Competent leadership, this isn't really a question you ask, but you want to talk to the leadership or get to know them or research them and make sure that the people leading the company from the top down are competent and good at what they're doing. How maintenance is handled is a very important one. You want to make sure that you go with a company that is troubleshooting with tenants before sending a vendor out, that they're vetting their vendors, that that they're vetting their vendors, and that they're watching as the maintenance invoices are coming back in and making sure that it's being handled appropriately at the property and on your accounting and your ledger. Collection rate is an incredibly important one. Industry average is somewhere around 82 to 85%. We're well above that within my company. But you want to know what that is. On top of that, you want to know what their collection methods are. How aggressive are they? What styles do they use in that?
So just to elaborate, what industry average 80, 85%, what rate would you say is a safe rate that they feel comfortable with that company? And what rate, I would imagine, below 80 or 85% should they be like, red flag, I don't want to work with these people?
Yeah, and that's going to go market to market. It's going to depend. Here in DFW market, our rate is incredibly high. We're well above. We're somewhere around 97% on any given month. By the 10th of the month, the 80 to 85, I'm saying for the entire month, we're usually there by the 10th of the month. But in different markets where it's a little bit harder to collect or it's not quite as landlord friendly, you may get closer to that average. Anyone below average in any market, I would probably shy away from immediately. And then you'll get a good sense if you're calling around and doing your research on what property manager you want to use, on what kind of the average is throughout that market, and you'll be able to judge based on that. But yeah, anyone below that national average of the 80 to 85, I would absolutely run away from.
Yeah.
The last thing on here is MLS membership. What this touches on is how are they leasing the property. The reason I put MLS membership, not every area has MLS, multi-listing service or multiple listing service. Most do, but that's going to show you that they're trying to get the largest pool of tenant into the property and viewing the property so that you can get the best tenant that's on the market looking for a property like yours.
That's very important to me. With the rentals that I own and the rentals that we produce here, we put them all on the MLS because yes, we want the largest audience possible working towards, or largest audience seeing your properties, one, but also all the agents in the area, giving them the opportunity to lease that home as well. That's how we're able to keep vacancies down to an extreme minimum.
Yeah, so, and if you go through all of these, you're going to get a lot, there will be more questions that come up, but you'll get a very good idea on the general scope of what that property manager is all about.
Okay, great. And then, so now I want to kind of move over here. I feel like a lot of investors don't really know what property management companies even do, or what is really involved day to day with managing homes. It's really, really difficult, and it's very labor intensive, in my opinion. But I think a lot of people just don't understand the full spectrum. They kind of just think, they're just collecting rent and charging me a lease fee and charging me a management fee every month and just kick back with their feet up. I'd like you to kind of elaborate on what is actually involved with managing these properties day to day.
No, of course. And I do want to touch on, because there is that opinion out there of a lot of investors towards property management that there's not a lot that's being done and they're just collecting money. And I'll tell you, there are some companies out there that do that. They're not doing their job, and it will become very noticeable very fast when they actually do that, because it is very labor intensive, as you said, and there's a lot of little nuances that go into it.
Yeah.
So going through the short list we prepared here, industry knowledge is kind of a big deal that not just encompasses just general real estate. That has to do with what's going on in the area in real estate that you're working on. What construction is going on, what jobs are coming in, what jobs are leaving, how many people are moving to the area. as well as what laws are being passed in your particular municipality, whether it's Texas laws and property code or whether it's city laws, like for instance the city of Dallas recently this year instituted city registrations, and what involvement of those laws affect the owners and how it affects the owners, so that you can educate your clientele. The next one being leasing renewals and application screening. That covers the broad range of marketing the property, getting pictures of the property, getting applications, running a screening. Ours is very in-depth. We run screening for background, a screening for credit, a screening for housing. Are they doing, or this isn't a question of what are people doing, but on the application screening you want rental history, you want job history, and you want those things checked. Another thing that we do, maintenance and vendor relations negotiate. With maintenance, what a lot of investors think about is a repair needs to happen. What they don't think about is the vendor relations and negotiating with those vendors. A good property manager is going to go out and find multiple vendors within any given industry. They're going to make those vendors bid and compete against each other, and they're going to negotiate a rate based on bulk, because I'm not just an individual property, I'm hundreds of properties.
Right.
So usually I can negotiate a lower price based on I'm going to give you a lot of business.
And I will say one thing, if you don't watch these guys here, your investors are really going to end up getting a negative effect from this. Vendors, contractors, they're always going to overcharge. They're always going to try and get away with things, but our management company and any really good management company, you need to make sure that they're watching these bids and they're holding these contractors accountable. Because if you don't, we've seen things in the past, $500 to clean up a little yard. Okay, if you're not watching that kind of stuff, and your property manager isn't watching that kind of stuff, you're going to get burned. So you want to make sure you're working with somebody that's going to watch those bids, hold these guys accountable.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I say you get multiple vendors within the same industry as well. You don't just use one HVAC vendor. You don't just use one garage door vendor, because then that vendor can start inching their prices up and you don't even realize it.
Right.
And they could be out of market. Another thing that we do is accounting. We make sure that there is a ledger that is accounted for when things happen at the property, so that at the end of the year you don't have to really go back and look at it. You can just give that to your CPA and be done. We handle anything that has to do with an HOA. Any management company that doesn't is a red flag, and that goes the same thing with city registration. As I said, the city of Dallas just recently instituted a registration where you have to do an inspection, a checklist, pay some money. They every so often have to do an inspection themselves, and they may flag things. And we definitely need to be on top of that, because there can be fines and fees and lots of things.
And there's cities in America that they make you go through this city registration process, and it can really be cumbersome and really time consuming and can really affect the performance of your investment. So you need to make sure that whatever management company you're working with that operates in a city that requires these extra inspections, that they have a good relationship with these city inspectors and they know how to handle it. Because you'll see these national companies come into markets that aren't very familiar with the city registrations, and they can't really operate there professionally, because they're just running into walls all the time, because it's a lot harder to operate in a city like this that requires these extra registrations.
Yes, and it's very important. I've seen city registrations where the inspector came back that you had to repair the public sidewalk, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to depend on your relationship with the inspector. You also have to know the actual code that the city has, so that if they come with something that's outrageous, then you can come back to them with that.
Right.
That city actually had it was Mesquite, and they had just changed their code that public sidewalks on the property or right in front of the property were an owner's responsibility, so we did have to take care of it. But I should know that as the manager.
Right.
And that's important. And that goes right into the next one, which is code compliance. And you need to know your local codes, both state and local municipality codes, so that you can make sure that you're compliant with them, whether it be what type of locks are on the doors or where the smoke detectors are. Those are very important things. Another thing that we handle, evictions. If a tenant doesn't pay, we need to know, and we should be able to describe to our investor exactly how we handle evictions, how long that takes, what is involved in the process, and what kind of costs can be involved. Here in Dallas, we handle them all in-house, as long as it has to do with dereliction of rent. And in that case, we keep the cost minimal, because we're not outsourcing a lawyer, we're just taking care of the eviction. We also handle emergencies. We have a 24-hour line. We have someone who's on call for that 24-hour line. So someone, pretty much 24 hours a day, they can get someone that works for the management company to handle stuff. Lease compliance has to do with certain things like changing filters, changing the batteries to the smoke detectors, not having a pet when there's no pet involved in the lease. Those things are something that management companies deal with, good management companies deal with. Collections goes back towards before evictions and also goes towards the other side. This has to do with the rate that they collect. How does a management company do its collections? We actually have a process that in the beginning of the month is incredibly time intensive, with phone calls, with emails, with portal messages, with knocking on doors to get our collection rate up because we want to pay our owners.
Yeah, and this right here, I've had experiences with management companies in the past where their collection process is not where it needed to be, and that results in a lot of these evictions. Tenants get too far behind, and tenants, they're going to get away with whatever they can get away with. So if you're not on top of them and threatening eviction and calling, emailing, knocking on doors, leaving notices on the door, you can run into situations where the tenants are getting behind and then they get too far behind and it results in an eviction. So good management companies have a clear process for how they collect rent each month. So I think that that's definitely something that they're going to want to ask a management company too when they're vetting them out. What is your collections process?
Yeah, absolutely, and it goes right along with the rate of collections and what is your collections process. The two biggest killers of investor money, as I'm sure you know, John, and everyone watching knows, is going to be turnover and vacancy.
Yeah.
And if you're not on top of your collections, and you lead to a lot of evictions, and then you've got back rent owed plus turnover and vacancy, and that's a
killer.
Threat.
Yeah, it's a
it
killer.
Absolutely kills you. Up here we've got security deposit accounting. It goes in with accounting, but it is completely separated. And a good management company, they're going to do a thorough move-out inspection, look at what can be a tenant charge, look at what the owner needs to pay for themselves, give you a very good breakdown of that, and then send out a thorough breakdown to the tenant as well. In the same regards, when a tenant disputes something on the security deposit accounting, if you've done a thorough inspection, and for instance on our move-outs, we take somewhere between 180 and 230 pictures on any given move-out. So if a tenant comes back and disputes any charge that we have, the first thing is not, hey owner, they disputed, what do you want to do? The first thing we do is go back to those pictures, send out evidence of, hey tenant, here's the evidence of why we're charging you that, and seeing if that will resolve it before having to involve the owner at all.
Yeah.
And then that leads right into move-out and move-in inspections. Those need to be incredibly thorough, and really below this is inspections, period, because there's mid-lease inspections that happen as well as vacancy inspections that are not move-out and move-in. But on the move-out and move-in inspections, which are the most common, on move-in inspections you really want to see someone who does a very thorough move-in inspection. Takes, again, my company takes between 120 and 150 pictures on any given move-in. That's evidence before the tenant moves in, so that when they move out and I do my move-out inspection and I have 180 to 200 pictures, that I can go, if a tenant disputes, here's how it looked before you got there, here's how it looked after you moved out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just protecting your asset. A good management company definitely should do that. And this isn't a comprehensive list, but it's a good quick rundown of a lot of the main duties that we oversee and that we are focusing on a daily basis.
Okay. Yeah, and then I just want to touch quickly on fee structure. So, give an example of what are the common fees that someone's going to see with American Real PM, and what are some fees that they might see from other management companies that would send up a red flag to me?
Yeah, absolutely. Our fee structure is incredibly simple. We want to be in line with our investors, and we want to be transparent. The first thing on my list. So by the fee structure that we have a management fee, we have a leasing fee, and we have a renewal fee. And those are the only fees you're going to see coming from American Real PM. Get you not vacant, keep you not vacant, and then obviously our standard management fee. Fees that you might see from other companies, you might see a startup fee, you might see an eviction filing fee, you might see a court fee, you might see a maintenance fee. There's lots of different ways that companies nickel and dime into owners' pockets.
Yeah.
We felt that wasn't the direction we wanted to go. Those fees didn't put us in line with our owners' best interest.
Yes.
So we went with a very simplified, very transparent fee structure that makes sure that we're in line with our owner.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, leasing fee, renewal fee, management fee, that's it, huh?
That's it.
Pretty good. Well, one thing that we wanted to start with that I didn't start with was just a quick background on yourself. So if you want to just end this and just let the class know what your experience is as a property manager and just give a brief background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been in real estate for approximately 12, 13 years now. Started out doing brokerage in New York City. Was a broker in New York City for about 7 years. Then I moved back down to Texas for family. When I moved to Texas, I decided to get into property management. I found my way into a single family property manager that is one of the biggest in the nation. Learned and grew from there. In that time frame, I met these fine gentlemen at American Real Estate Investments. After being there for about 4 years, they expressed to me that there was a need that they weren't having met in property management, and that need was an investor-driven, investor-forward property management company. And we started a discussion about how we could fill that need, how we could create a company that was more towards what an investor is looking for and what an investor needs, specifically a turnkey investor or a passive investor. And in that sprouted American Real PM, and we've been running this show for a little over a year now.
And you're already up to how many doors now? 400 doors?
We're up to 400 doors after 12 months, and the growing doesn't slow down.
Perfect. Well, that is the end of the class. You are dismissed. Scotty, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, John.
And thank you. Have a great day.